Carl, tell me about upselling off a website. How do you do it?
I mean, the cynical answer is, what do we have a lot of? I mean, that's usually the answer. I mean, let's be honest. What's our most attractive mistake that we can put into upsell? It's again, like, I think the string of mistakes that you can make in times, like, you just have enough successes to outweigh those, and occasionally you just have to get creative. And I think the merch booth upsell is totally different than the online upsell. I mean, we've had items that we've done upsells for, we've tested it, where it's like, hey, did you know that this existed? Check this out. It's, for you, it's like we discounted like $1, but just like putting it in front of people's faces. And it's like, because people don't like to click that much, sometimes it's just a matter of reminding people something exists. I think at a live setting, for smaller bands, especially, because I feel like, let's say, hypothetically, most of the people watching this aren't going to be in, bands that are playing 3,000 cap venues wondering what they can do differently. I think there's a certain level of just having, two things that go together, the shirt and the koozie. Like, that's always, this our shirt and a tote, a shirt and something to carry the shirt away in. And you have those kind of things that go together, and have it round up to be $2. If that's the best case scenario. Now, granted, you can credit cards, it doesn't really matter. And credit cards are becoming more and more prevalent thanks to Ben's constant pushing of them on everybody. But like the ability to get a Square reader and a venue reader is much easier now than it was, say even 5 years ago. And so, having things that rounded up to 40 or having things that rounded up to, 30, but just don't price your stuff in $2 increments. Don't create a lot of change. Don't create a lot of time for the seller. Because as much as the people in the line, like the people that are there, they're going to be fine giving you $30 if the price was going to be 28. And it's just not even so much like nobody's retiring off of that $2, but it's a matter of the speed, the ease, and the ability to go, oh, that, I'll take that $20 shirt and get a tote, or a $25 shirt and a $5 koozie. And I think that, again, it's just a matter of what makes sense at the time, given the situation, because you can't do a lot of upselling in a venue sell. They're not going to be there and go like, hey, you buy this shirt, I'll give you this for $5. Like, that's not their game.
Yeah. But this isn't a question. I just want to make sure that everybody watching this knows you must be able to take credit cards at your merch booth. You just have to, because I never walk around with cash and I want your stuff. Ian, all right, so we've been talking about the upsell. The next version of the upsell is the bundle, and I had hinted at wanting to ask about album cycles. The Billboard rules have changed. How are you going to better utilize bundles so that it is either advantageous or just not as bad as it could be for your artists after the Billboard rule changes?
Great question. I might piss off a lot of managers when I say this, but for me, the Billboard charts don't necessarily matter. We're in the business of creating revenue for our artists, and having a Billboard chart number that's slightly higher or slightly lower isn't going to make or break our artist business. So we're focused on values that create bundles that create value, perceived value, excellent products for the fans, great pieces that all make sense within the marketing of the artist scheme, because you're trying to create a fan. Creating fans happens in that place. It doesn't necessarily happen if I see your name in the top 200 of Billboard. So in my opinion, I would focus on great value, pricing your products correctly, creating perceived value by adding details like incredible packaging or throw-ins. That kind of stuff I think really moves the needle more than putting a big number up on Billboard, although it is important and record labels really like it and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Spencer, what's your perspective on bundles? I mean, you got this thing wrapped up great. How do you approach what goes into a bundle and how you price it?
Yeah, I think that when we use bundles, it's usually, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, we usually do that pretty much only when we're dropping a new record, and bundle that with the record. But we've seen great success with it, and I think that it's all about not overwhelming the customer with too many options for bundles. I think that less is more a lot of the time, and especially when it comes to that idea with merch. But making sure it's clear that there is a price break. If you buy this bundle, you're going to save money as opposed to buying each one of those items. I think some of the cooler items, making those only available in bundles is sometimes that sort of icing on the cake to seal the deal for someone buying that bundle. And it comes down to a lot with consistency. It's something that we haven't touched on too much yet, is great artists that you work with. And I think we're in a position where I don't know how many bands are like us, but we basically only use one artist, pretty much only one guy. His name's Mike Cortada, and he was strategically chosen because I thought that what he did with bands like A Day to Remember, with bands like Pierce the Veil, he really, I think, had a lot to do with building their identity and branding. And he's our go-to man. And sometimes Mike and I will see a design someone else did, and we'll think it's great. But then, bringing it over to Mike, he's got that extra, he's got that third eye, where he can see that it's, it's not fashionable, it's flea market. And I think having someone on the team like that is incredibly valuable, and especially when it comes to bundles, because they have that eye for what items work together. And also we've got a great team at Absolute Merch that we've really sort of established like a checks and balance system with everything. There's 6 to 7 people that everything goes through when we're deciding about merch drops and bundles and all that stuff. So it's a cool, very open dialogue between our team. And I think that for us, at least, texting is the best way. Having those group texts. It's not email where you don't have to go into your email, because I find, the way Gmail is set up in the last few years just is a nightmare to find things, find attachments and stuff. So we have a very open dialogue about that stuff.
Awesome. Ben, we're going to wrap up really soon, but there's been a whole bunch of ideas here. And so I wanted to ask you sort of 2 questions. One, is there anything that, that we haven't covered that to you screams of a missed opportunity that we definitely need to address? And then sort of second, and it's almost a whole nother question. We just had a panel recently about booking, and we had promoters and a booking agent and everybody talking about how they're bracing for the live experience to change. Is there anything about the live merch experience that you think may change in the wake of lockdown and coronavirus?
Well, first part of that question, I don't know that there's anything obvious that we, that we've missed on this panel in terms of, the things, especially for the audience watching, that you just need to be focused on and consistent with and meticulous about. And there's a lot of really good expertise and advice that has been shared here for, any young artists and any artist to take away and apply those lessons to their career. In terms of live, yeah, we're in constant communication with all of our merchandise partners, both on the venue side, the festival side, the merchandise artists side, and the short answer is nobody knows. Nobody knows what this is going to look like. Nobody knows when this is going to come back to life. But there's going to have to be, one thing for sure is there's going to have to be some quick and immediate adaptability to the environment, And so what that means is when venues start coming back on board, are they trying to implement social distancing? If they are, what does that mean for a merch stand now? A lot of the venue operators are talking about going totally cashless. We're not dealing with cash. We don't want to handle cash. for the safety of our fans and for the safety of our staff, we're not dealing with it. How does the merchandise stand become as contactless as possible, so that, whether it's Live Nation or AEG or the Troubadour, whoever can go to their city officials and say, these are the measures we're putting in place to keep the staff safe and the fans safe. And that's going to have to do with parking. It's going to have to do with concessions. It's going to have to do with the merchandise stand. So we're all learning in real time, adapting in real time. That venue is certainly, feeding information from the different merchandise companies to the venues to the merchandise companies. Can we come up with kind of a general consensus of how we can play ball? A lot of the venue operators are, hey, can we consolidate the merchandise line so you're not coming in with 30 items, you're coming in with whatever the appropriate amount is, so that we're moving the lines faster. We're also not counting 3 times as many t-shirts as we need to count. We're not handling more boxes, every day. So again, nobody knows for sure, but these are the themes and the trends that we're hearing from all of our partners on how do we make it a safer environment for fans and for staff. And at the same time, maybe introduce some new opportunities for contactless payments and et cetera. So from a technology perspective, we're certainly looking at this as, how do we encourage that transaction to go faster? How do we encourage, fans to potentially purchase from their phone and pick it up at a different location? We've done some of that on the festival side. Bottle Rock as an example, where a VIP suite holder can snap a QR code, place their order, and somebody comes bring their merchandise to them. Are there ways where we can adapt? Not that that's the model that's going to work, but are there ways where we can, adapt some of that technology into these different environments? So, it's and it also depends on timing. When are they actually going to let us come back to work? When can we actually start to have some shows and rock and roll back? But I think that some of those things, everyone's just going to have to, absorb information in real time and adapt to whatever the situation may be.
Yeah, cashless merch booth finally means
that I think that's going to be something we're definitely going to see a big push for, is the cashless merch booth.
So, Mike, besides Ben's suggestion that you use a T-shirt cannon as your delivery system, what else? What else do you want to wrap up? This is for me. My mind's been blown a dozen times. So, thank you guys all. But, Mike, a couple takeaways. Can you wrap us up a little bit?
Yeah, I think as we're wrapping up, so much good advice from all of these guys. To me, the real takeaway is how does somebody out there that's trying to do some of the things that we've talked about build a team like this of people that can influence them, right? At venue, I can call Ben, but Ben's a busy guy. So I can go to his website where he publishes things about best practices. There's other resources that guys like Carl, go sniff around at the various fulfillment places. Whatever, Absolute Merch, as Spencer mentioned, Kings Road Merch, our friends at Merch Now, there's Second City, there's tons of other ones. But we go to places like rockabilia.com. and go to Amazon.com and look at where people are. Spencer mentioned Supreme and things like that, but I'm talking about bringing it a little bit more close to home. And establish a relationship with people that are in each of these roles. That way, when you're trying to make some decisions, you can get some really strong and valid opinions. The beautiful thing is, it's been an exciting time to be a developing artist, because as you can hear from an artist like Spencer, who's no longer developing, so many of the tools are still in his hands. And that's kind of the beauty, is if you're willing to take the advice of guys like this, build a team around you, and, do some trial and error and just be persistent, the chances of figuring out a model that works for you are actually pretty, they're pretty simple, but require a lot of work to do.
Guys, if you don't mind sticking around for another 6 hours, I got a few more questions.
The sun is set in most people's houses by now.
Yeah, I'm trying to block the west window. Didn't quite plan that.
Yeah, Spencer's getting hammered over there, man.
Only Ben has sunlight whenever he wants it.
Nice. Good for him.
Thank you all very, very much. I really greatly appreciate all of your time and sharing your wisdom. Really, really appreciate it, and hope we can get a chance to spend some more time with you again in the future. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Sure.
for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you
Thanks,
guys.
Have a good one.
Appreciate
All right,
it.
peace.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.